At 5:47 on the morning the inspectors arrived, my old roommate called me 11 times. I watched her name flare across my phone while rain rattled against the narrow window of my new dorm room. On the 12th call, she stopped. 3 seconds later, a message appeared. Mara, tell them the lockbox is yours. I read it twice, not because I was surprised, but because in my first life I had obeyed. Back then, I had run across campus in slippers, still half asleep, desperate to save 2 girls who had already prepared my ruin. I had stood in the doorway of room 418 and claimed the black metal box beneath my bed. I had believed Celeste when she whispered that it contained harmless tutoring notes. I had believed Briar when she cried and said one mistake would destroy all 3 of us. The box had contained stolen examination papers, answer keys, student identification cards, and a flash drive carrying files copied from the registrar's office. By sunset, I had been suspended. By winter, I had lost my scholarship. By the following spring, my mother had sold her little house to pay for lawyers who never found the evidence I was too frightened to name. And 2 years later, after learning that Celeste and Briar had graduated with honors, I stepped into a rain-slicked street without seeing the delivery van coming. Then I opened my eyes in room 418 again, 6 weeks before final results, with Celeste humming at her desk and Briar cutting my name out of a label sheet. This time, I did not run to save them. This time, I had moved out 3 days before the inspectors knocked. My new roommate, a quiet architecture student named Noor, stirred beneath her blanket and peered at me through the darkness. Is something wrong? No, I said, turning my phone face down. Something is finally right. The knocking began in my memory before I heard it through the hallway walls. Firm. Official. 3 strikes, a pause, then 3 more. Room 512 was 2 floors above my old dorm, but the building carried sounds strangely at dawn. Pipes clicked. Doors opened. Someone cursed. Footsteps rushed toward the stairwell. Then the resident's alarm chirped once, not for fire, but for a security override. Noor sat up. What is happening? An inspection. For everyone? I slipped out of bed and pulled on a cardigan. Not everyone. Her eyes sharpened, but she did not ask another question. That was one reason I had chosen her room when housing offered me a transfer. Noor understood that silence could be respectful rather than suspicious. My phone buzzed again. Briar this time. Please. We can explain. Just come downstairs. I deleted the message. Then Celeste sent a photograph. The image showed our old room from the doorway. 2 campus security officers stood near the wardrobes. A woman in a gray suit knelt beside the black lockbox. Celeste's hand had entered the frame, pale and shaking. On the wall behind her, 3 hooks remained above the bed I had vacated. One still held the cheap silver necklace my mother gave me when I left home. They had kept it there to make the room look occupied. My stomach tightened. Even after being reborn, even after planning every step, seeing that necklace in their trap felt like finding a piece of my first corpse. Under the photograph, Celeste wrote, "They think you still live here." I smiled without humor. That was exactly what she had intended. 3 days earlier, she had watched me carry my suitcases down the corridor and laughed as if the transfer were a tantrum. She had told everyone I would return after cooling down. She had left my old bedding on the mattress, placed 2 of my empty notebooks on the desk, and refused to sign the checkout inventory when the resident assistant asked. Celeste believed appearances could overpower records. In my first life, they had. Not now. I opened the residence app and checked the transfer confirmation again. Approved Tuesday, 2:16 p.m. room 512 effective immediately. Digital key revoked for room 418 at 2:18 p.m. Checkout witnessed by resident assistant Lena Ortiz at 2:31 p.m. Property inventory uploaded with photographs at 2:44 p.m. Every minute documented. Every object accounted for. Except the necklace. I had left it deliberately. Not because I needed bait. The inspectors already had probable cause under university policy after the anonymous evidence package reached internal compliance. I left the necklace because I needed to know whether Celeste would use it. She did. A sudden pounding shook our door. Nor flinched. Mara, Celeste screamed from the hallway. Open this door. I checked the time. 5:55. Faster than last time. Nor rose, wrapping her blanket around her shoulders. Should I call security? They are already in the building. Celeste struck the door again. You did this. Open up. I walked toward the door, but did not unlock it. Through the peephole, I saw her in silk pajamas and bare feet, her dark hair unbrushed, her usual composure stripped away. Briar hovered behind her, crying so hard her face looked swollen. At the stairwell entrance stood a security officer speaking into a radio. Celeste leaned close to the door. They found your necklace. They found her notebooks. Tell them the box belongs to you, and we can fix this. My heartbeat stumbled at the exact sentence. In my first life, she had said it softly, with one hand around my wrist. Tell them the box belongs to you, and we can fix this. I had mistaken her certainty for a plan that included me. Now I recognized it as the confidence of someone who had rehearsed my sacrifice. I pressed the intercom button beside the door. You should go back downstairs. Her face jerked toward the speaker. Mara? The inspectors will notice you left during a secured search. Briar covered her mouth. Celeste's eyes narrowed. What did you tell them? Nothing false. The security officer approached. Ms. Vale, return to room 418 now. Celeste ignored him. You think moving rooms protects you? Your things are still there. Some of my things, I said. Interesting that you know exactly which ones. Her expression changed. Only slightly. But I saw the moment she understood that I was no longer improvising. The officer touched her elbow. Celeste pulled away and pointed at my door. She is involved. Search her room too. I already consented, I replied. That stopped her. Nor looked at me, startled. I had signed the inspection consent at 4:30 that morning, before compliance entered the building. I had invited them to examine my laptop, storage boxes, textbooks, clothes, and cloud accounts. I had also placed a sealed copy of my evidence log on Noor's desk so that every search item could be checked against a timestamp. Celeste had expected a frightened girl defending her privacy. Instead, she found an open door she could not weaponize. The officer escorted both girls away. Their footsteps faded down the stairs, followed by Briar sobs. Noor turned to me. You knew this was coming. Yes. And you never told me? I was not allowed to compromise the search. She studied my face for a long moment. Are you in danger? The question pierced deeper than accusation would have. In my first life, nobody had asked whether I was in danger until danger had already swallowed me. I said. I am trying not to be again. Noor nodded once. Then she crossed the room, switched on her desk lamp, and began clearing a path between the door and my belongings. If they're searching, she said, they should not trip over my model bridge. That was all.
No dramatic promise.
No demand for details. Just room made for the truth. At 6:12, internal compliance knocked politely. The woman in the gray suit introduced herself as Dr. Imani Reyes, Director of Academic Integrity Investigations. Beside her stood a technology auditor and Lena, the resident assistant who had witnessed my transfer. Dr. Reyes held a tablet. Ms. Ellison, as previously arranged, we are conducting a voluntary verification search. You may withdraw consent at any point. I understand. She glanced at Noor. Ms. Haddad, you may remain or step outside. I will remain, Noor said. This is my room too. The search lasted 27 minutes. They checked my wardrobe, under my mattress, inside my desk drawers, and behind the removable base panel beneath the sink. The auditor photographed serial numbers on my laptop and external drive. Dr. Reyes compared my current possessions with Tuesday's checkout inventory. When she reached the list of items left behind, she paused. One silver necklace, she read. Marked as intentionally abandoned? Yes. Why? I looked directly at her. Because Celeste Vale has used my belongings to imply ownership before. Lena inhaled sharply. Dr. Reyes's expression remained neutral. Before when? This was the edge I had feared. I could not tell her I remembered a life that had not happened. I could not explain how I knew the lockbox would appear beneath my bed, or how I knew the stolen papers inside would be arranged with my fingerprints on the outer folders. I needed facts from this life, not memories from the dead one. So I gave her facts. 3 weeks ago, Celeste borrowed my statistics notebook without asking and returned it to Professor Halden's office after hours. The next morning, he found a copied grading rubric tucked inside. She said I must have placed it there. Security footage showed her entering the corridor alone. Dr. Reyes tapped her screen. That incident was dismissed because the rubric was not confidential. It established a pattern. Yes, she said. It did. I continued. Breyer used my student card to collect a parcel from the mail desk last month. She said she grabbed it accidentally. The parcel was addressed to an administrative assistant in the registrar's office. The auditor stopped examining my charger. Dr. Reyes looked up. Do you know the assistant's name? Evan Pike. Something passed between the investigators. That name mattered. In my first life, Evan Pike had disappeared from campus before my disciplinary hearing. The university claimed he resigned for personal reasons. Celeste told me never to mention him, because doing so would make me look desperate. This time, I had searched early. Evan was not merely an assistant. He was Breyer's older half-brother, a relationship hidden because they used different surnames. He had access to archived student records, printing credentials, and the restricted corridor connecting the registrar to examination services. I had sent proof of their relationship to compliance 12 days ago. Dr. Reyes set down her tablet. Ms. Ellison, I need to ask directly. Did you ever authorize Ms. Vale or Ms. Lennox to store materials under your former bed?
No.
Did you own a black steel lockbox?
No.
Have you handled one? Not in this life, I almost said. I caught the words behind my teeth.
No, y correcta.
The auditor glanced at me, perhaps noticing the pause. Dr. Reyes did too, but her voice stayed calm. Were you aware that a lockbox was in room 418 before this morning? I had prepared for the question. I suspected they would place something in the space after I moved. Why? Because yesterday at 8:07 p.m., Celeste texted asking whether I had forgotten the combination to my little black case. I have never owned one. I preserved the message and forwarded it to your office. Dr. Reyes nodded. We received it. What she did not say was that the message had been a mistake. Not Celeste's mistake.
Mine.
I had provoked it. The previous evening, I had posted a photograph in our old roommates group chat showing my new desk. In the corner of the image, barely visible, sat a red makeup case with a brass latch. I captioned it, "Finally unpacked everything important." Celeste responded within 4 minutes. Did you forget the combination to your little black case? She needed me to acknowledge ownership before the search. She assumed I was careless enough to answer. Instead, I wrote, "What black case?" She deleted her message. But disappearing messages were still captured by the notification archive on my tablet. A pattern interruption saved me in my first life only after it was too late. Celeste hated uncertainty. Give her an unfinished detail, and she rushed to complete it. This time, I used that hunger against her. Dr. Reyes finished the search at 6:39. No prohibited materials found, she stated for the recording.
No han register de vices.
No documents corresponding to the items recovered in room 418. Nor folded her arms. So Mara's cleared? Today's search did not identify evidence in this room, Dr. Reyes said carefully. The investigation remains active. I appreciated the precision. Innocence was not a gift bestowed by one clean drawer. It was a conclusion built from records. Before leaving, Dr. Reyes turned back. Ms. Ellison, do not contact Ms. Vale, Ms. Lennox, or Mr. Pike. Do not discuss the contents of the recovered box with other students. If anyone threatens or pressures you, contact campus security immediately. They already pressured me. Send us the messages. I will. She looked at my phone. Do not delete anything else. Heat rose into my face. She had noticed. I deleted 2 messages from my screen, but they remain in cloud backup. Good. Preserve the device exactly as it is. After they left, Noor shut the door. Then she said, "Not in this life?" My chest went cold. She had heard. I turned toward the window. Dawn had begun to thin the darkness, revealing rainwater trembling on the glass. I misspoke. "No," Noor said. "You corrected yourself." I expected questions. Instead, she returned to her bed and sat cross-legged beneath the blanket. My grandmother used to say people speak from more than one life when they are terrified, she said. Sometimes she meant memory, sometimes regret, sometimes something else. I faced her. "Are you asking me what I meant?"
No.
"I am telling you I will not repeat it." Trust, I learned, did not always arrive as belief. Sometimes it arrived as restraint. At 7:05, the building group chat exploded. Someone on the 4th floor had filmed Celeste and Briar being escorted to their residence office. The video showed Briar clutching a coat around her pajamas while Celeste demanded to call her father. Comments multiplied faster than I could read. What happened? Was that an exam paper box?
They searched 418.
Mara used to live there. I closed the app. Public curiosity was another trap. In my first life, I had posted a frantic defense before the university released any statement. Celeste's lawyer used my wording to argue that I knew details only a participant could know. Every sentence I wrote became a loose thread pulled through months of hearings. This time, I gave them nothing. At 7:23, Professor Halden emailed the entire graduating cohort. Final results delayed, pending administrative review. A scream rose from somewhere down the hall. Noor read over my shoulder. All results. They have to determine how far the breach spread. You knew this too? In a way. My own final result was supposed to determine whether I kept the Ashbourne Scholarship for postgraduate study. In my first life, the delay had lasted 9 days. During those 9 days, Celeste and Briar turned the dorm against me. They said I had stolen papers because I was terrified of losing my rank. They produced photographs of me near the registrar's corridor. They persuaded 3 students to remember conversations that never occurred. By the time the truth could have caught up, reputation had already sprinted ahead. I opened a blank document titled Contact Log. 7:31 a.m. Unknown student knocked twice. No response given. 7:34 a.m. Message from cohort group asking for comment. No response. 7:36 a.m. Missed call from mother. I stopped. My mother. In my first life, I had hidden the investigation from her for 2 days. I told myself I was protecting her weak heart. Really, I was protecting myself from hearing fear in her voice. When she finally learned through a university notice, she drove 4 hours in a storm and arrived carrying a grocery bag full of sandwiches because she did not know what else to bring. She sat outside the hearing room while people called me dishonest. She mortgaged her home before I could stop her. This time, I called back immediately. She answered before the first ring completed. "Mara, I am safe." Silence. Then, that is not how people begin ordinary phone calls. I shut my eyes. "I need you to listen before you worry." "I am already worried." "Continue." So I told her there had been an inspection. I told her prohibited materials were found in my former room, that I had transferred before the search, that the university had documentation, and that investigators had found nothing in my new space. I did not tell her I had died. I did not tell her that in another future, she lost her house because I mistook silence for strength. When I finished, she asked, "Do you need me there?"
No.
"Do you want me there?" The difference broke something open inside me. "Yes," I whispered. "I will take the 10 o'clock train. You do not have to bring food." I was not planning to. A pause. "I was planning to bring your aunt, who is scarier than food." I laughed for the first time that morning. The laugh ended when a new email arrived. Mandatory interview, 9 a.m. The sender was Dr. Reyes. Location, Administration Building, Interview Room C. Noor read the screen. "I can walk with you. You have my bridge is ugly. They can review it without me. You spent 3 weeks on it." I spent 3 weeks proving cardboard hates humidity. Despite everything, I smiled. At 8:40, we left the dorm through the rear courtyard to avoid the students gathered near the main entrance. Rain had weakened to a silver mist. Campus security vehicles lined the service road. Across the quad, the old clock tower struck the hour late, each bell landing out of rhythm. Pattern interruption. In my first life, I walked to the same building alone while social media notifications screamed in my pocket. I had rehearsed denials until they sounded false. At the top of the administration steps, Celeste's father intercepted me with an umbrella and told me good girls knew when to accept consequences. Now, Nor walked beside me carrying her ruined model bridge, like a weapon. Nobody approached. Interview room, C smelled of coffee and printer toner. Dr. Reyes sat at one end of a narrow table. Beside her was Dean Merritt, whose silver cufflinks had flashed while he signed my suspension in the first life. A legal officer joined by video screen. A sealed evidence bag rested on the table. Inside was my necklace. Dean Merritt folded his hands. Ms. Ellison, thank you for cooperating. I sat without answering. Dr. Reyes began the recording. She reviewed my rights under university procedure, including the right to an advisor. My mother was still on the train, so I had requested Dr. Sato, my faculty mentor. The chair beside me remained empty. Dr. Sato is delayed, Dean Merritt said. We can begin with preliminary questions.
No.
He blinked. In my first life, I had been afraid to inconvenience officials. I answered for 40 minutes without an advisor, unaware that preliminary statements could be used in formal discipline. I will wait for Dr. Sato, I said. The legal officer's face remained still on the screen, but Dr. Reyes gave a slight nod. We waited 11 minutes. Dean Merritt attempted small talk twice. I drank water and counted the ceiling tiles. At 9:13, the door opened and Dr. Sato entered wearing a raincoat over mismatched clothes, his white hair flattened on one side. Apologies, he said. A security officer insisted my umbrella was potentially evidentiary. He sat beside me and opened a yellow notebook. Proceed. Dr. Reyes removed the necklace from the evidence bag and placed it on a white tray. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
My mother gave it to me. Why was it found hanging above your former bed? Because I left it there. Dean Merritt frowned. You abandoned a sentimental item? I used it as a marker. For what? To see whether my former roommates would preserve my belongings in the room after my documented departure. Dr. Sato's pen paused. The dean leaned back. That sounds unusually calculated. It was. Why would you anticipate being implicated in misconduct? Because attempts had already been made. I described the notebook incident, the parcel, the false lockbox message, and smaller events I had recorded over 6 weeks. Celeste borrowing my coat before visiting the examination center. Briar asking me to hold a sealed envelope she claimed contained medical records. My student portal logging an unsuccessful access attempt from Celeste's laptop. A photograph of my desk appearing in a private group chat before I posted it anywhere. Dean Merritt's skepticism thinned as the list grew. Dr. Reyes turned her tablet toward me. Do you recognize this image? It showed a security frame from the registrar's service corridor. A woman in a hooded coat walked past camera 3 at 11:46 p.m. The coat was mine. Yes. Is that you?
No.
Can you establish where you were? I was in the residence laundry room. At nearly midnight? The dryers are cheaper after 11. Dr. Sato looked offended. They charge different rates? Focus, the dean muttered. I continued. The laundry room camera will show me entering at 11:31 and leaving at 12:08. I paid using the residence app. Machine 6. Dr. Reyes tapped the screen. Another image appeared. Celeste entering room 418 at 11:22 wearing my coat. Then footage of me in the laundry room at 11:34 wearing a green sweatshirt. The images had been recovered only because I directed compliance to the exact time. Residence footage normally overwrote after 30 days. I filed the preservation request on the 28th. In my first life, I remembered the corridor image, but not the laundry receipt until after it vanished. This time, memory was not grief. It was evidence. Dean Merritt stared at the images. Why did Miss Vale have your coat? She took it from the shared wardrobe. Did you confront her? Yes. What did she say? That she needed it, because hers was wet. Dr. Reyes played an audio file. Celeste's voice filled the room. You are becoming paranoid, Mara. It is a coat, not your identity. My voice answered. Then stop wearing it into restricted buildings. The recording ended. Dean Merritt looked at me. You recorded your roommate? After she began borrowing items connected to incidents, yes. Was she aware? Our state permits one-party consent. The legal officer finally spoke. That is correct. Dr. Sato concealed a smile behind his hand. Dr. Reyes opened a folder. We recovered the coat this morning from Ms. Vale's wardrobe. Fibers consistent with it were found inside the lockbox. There it was. The first fracture in Celeste's certainty. But Dr. Reyes was not finished. The box also contained 6 folders labeled with your initials, she said. 3 carried latent prints matching yours. Dean Merritt's face tightened. Dr. Sato leaned toward me. Do not speculate. I do not need to, I said. I knew how my fingerprints arrived. 2 weeks before the inspection in my first life, Breyer asked me to organize blank folders for a charity tutoring event. She brought a stack to our room, and I labeled them while Celeste photographed volunteers for social media. Later, the event was canceled. I never saw the folders again. This time, when Breyer made the same request, I agreed. But before touching anything, I dusted my fingers with a traceable fluorescent lotion borrowed from a chemistry demonstration kit. I labeled all 6 folders while Noor, then merely my lab partner, filmed the activity under the pretense of making a promotional clip. Afterward, I sealed a control sample and reported the folder serial markings to compliance. I had let them collect my fingerprints. I had also marked exactly when. Dr. Reyes slid a photograph across the table. Under ultraviolet light, the edges of each folder glowed faintly blue. The folders recovered today carry the tracer described in your report, she said. Dean Merritt looked between us. You staged this. No, I said. I documented a staging attempt already underway. Why not report your roommates immediately? I did. His eyes moved to Dr. Reyes. She confirmed it. Ms. Ellison submitted an initial confidential concern 18 days ago. We requested that she avoid alerting the subjects while we verified access logs. The dean's face flushed. He had not been told. That mattered too. In my first life, the investigation had been controlled through his office, and information leaked to Celeste's father within hours. This time, Dr. Reyes kept the case inside compliance until the warrant equivalent residence authorization was approved. Celeste's father could influence Dean's. He could not erase server logs he did not know were preserved. The interview shifted. I was no longer being asked whether I had cheated. I was being asked how long I had known someone intended to frame me. The honest answer was impossible. The usable answer was 18 days. At 10:06, Dr. Reyes paused the recording. We need to discuss a development. She looked at Dean Merritt. He looked suddenly older. Mr. Evan Pike was detained by campus security at 8:51 attempting to leave the records annex with 2 encrypted drives, she said. Preliminary review indicates one contains exported student data. The other may contain examination materials. My fingers curled beneath the table. In my first life, Evan escaped. This time, he had returned for the drives because I sent him a message from a temporary account at 4:02 that morning. They know about Archive 7. Archive 7 did not exist. But Evan did not know what Celeste had told me. He only knew there were 7 numbered storage bays in the annex. Fear filled the gap. He rushed to retrieve anything that might match the warning. Pattern interruption. Do not chase the criminal. Make the criminal run toward the evidence. Dr. Reyes continued. We also found messages between Mr. Pike and Ms. Lennox discussing seat swaps, clean copies, and a payment schedule. Dr. Sato's expression hardened. Payment. A suspected answer selling operation. That was larger than my first case. I had believed Celeste and Briar stole papers only to protect their grades and destroy mine. But the messages suggested a market, students paying for altered seating assignments, advance copies, perhaps even grade changes. My rebirth had given me a map of one corridor. I had walked into a building full of hidden rooms. Dean Merritt ended the preliminary interview at 10:24. He instructed me to remain available and avoid campus discussion. That evening, I returned for a statement and admitted sending the Archive 7 message. Investigators warned me that provoking Evan had been reckless, but my honesty preserved my evidence. By night, my mother and aunt had taken a hotel room, and Noor stayed quietly beside me in room 512. At 9:10, someone slid an envelope beneath the door. Noor reached it first. The front carried my name in block letters.
No stamp. No residence Cecil.
We did not open it. Campus security arrived within 6 minutes. An officer photographed the envelope, placed it in a sleeve, and asked whether I recognized the handwriting.
I did.
Celeste printed capital letters with tiny hooks at the bottom of each A. But I said, "It resembles hers. I cannot confirm." The officer opened the envelope using gloves. Inside was a single photograph of my mother's house. On the back, someone had written, "You moved rooms. She cannot move houses." My mother went pale. The first life crashed through me. Her little blue house beneath winter trees. The bank papers on the kitchen table.
The sold sign.
Her hands trembling as she told me walls were replaceable, daughters were not. I could not breathe. Noor took my shoulders. "Mara, look at me." The room tilted. "5 blue things," she said. "What?" "Name 5 blue things." "Your ruler," I gasped. "Good." "The book spine. My mug. The thread on your blanket. The light on the charger. 4 things you can feel." I pressed my feet into the floor. "Carpet. Cardigan. Your hands.
Air."
The panic loosened. The officer requested immediate protective measures for my mother and Aunt June. Campus security contacted local police near her town. My mother wanted to dismiss the threat as theater. Aunt June did not. "We are not going home tonight," she said. "We are staying at a hotel under my name, and I am ordering the most expensive room service the university will reimburse." Nobody argued. At 10:02, Dr. Reyes called again. "Ms. Vale denies sending the envelope. Ms. Lennox is still in a monitored interview. Mr. Pike has no access to the residence." "Her father," I said. "We are examining that possibility." Graham Vale had known my mother's address because the Ashbourne Foundation required financial records for scholarship renewal. A program designed to help me had handed my enemy a map to her door. Dr. Reyes promised additional security. Promises had failed me before. So I built another record. I photographed the door gap, requested hallway camera preservation, saved the officer's incident number, and emailed the scholarship office asking who accessed my financial file in the past 30 days. Then I called the local police department near my mother's house and confirmed the patrol request myself. By midnight, exhaustion pressed against my skull. Noor had fallen asleep over her model bridge. My mother and aunt were secure at a hotel. 2 officers patrolled our residence floor. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. This was the point in my first life when I began apologizing for existing. Every new attack convinced me I must have caused it by fighting badly. I treated Celeste's cruelty like weather and my fear like a personal failure. Now, fear was information. It told me where the next blow might land. At 12:18, my laptop chimed. The scholarship office had replied unusually quickly. Access records showed my financial file opened 3 times during the past month. Once by the scholarship coordinator. Once by Dean Merritt. Once by an external trustee account assigned to Graham Vale. The final access occurred at 8:14 that evening, 2 hours before the threat photograph arrived. I forwarded the log to Dr. Reyes and the police case address. Then I noticed something else. The file included my mother's house appraisal, but the photograph under our door had been taken from the rear garden. The scholarship documents contained only street-facing images. Someone had visited the property. I called my mother's neighbor, Mrs. Green. She answered sleepily, then became alert when I asked about strangers. A man came yesterday, she said. Said he was from insurance. Took pictures near the fence. Did you see him?
Tall.
Gray coat. Drove a dark car. Graham Vale was tall. He wore gray coats. But assumption was not evidence. Do you have a doorbell camera? Yes, though it mostly records cats. Please do not delete anything. At 12:41, Mrs. Green sent a video. A dark sedan stopped outside my mother's house at 3:26 the previous afternoon. A man emerged, walked along the side fence, and photographed the rear garden through a gap. Not Graham. Dean Merritt. I watched the clip 3 times. The dean who had questioned my calculations. The dean who claimed surprise at compliance's hidden investigation. The dean who accessed my file. In my first life, he signed my suspension because Celeste's father influenced him. I had assumed cowardice. The video suggested participation. Pattern interruption. The quiet official was not merely bending beneath pressure. He was inside the machine. I sent the recording to Dr. Reyes with 1 sentence. This appears to be Dean Merritt at my mother's property yesterday. Her response came at 12:49. Do not contact him. Officers are being dispatched. At 1:07, the resident's fire alarm erupted. Noor sprang awake. Red light pulsed above the door. Students shouted in the corridor. Security officers ordered everyone downstairs. I grabbed my phone, evidence drive, and shoes. Noor grabbed her model bridge. Why that? I asked as we hurried out. I refuse to let this week kill it before my professor does. Smoke curled from the 4th floor stairwell. Room 418. My old room. We descended with the crowd into the courtyard. Rain began again, hard and cold. Firefighters rushed inside. Students clustered beneath trees, filming. Celeste stood near the residence director, wearing a borrowed coat. Briar was nowhere visible. A security officer separated Celeste from the crowd. She saw me and smiled. Not with triumph, with relief. That frightened me more. At 1:19, firefighters announced the blaze was contained. Someone had ignited papers inside a metal waste bin in room 418. The sprinkler system soaked the room before flames spread. Evidence destruction. But why would Celeste smile if her room had burned? Dr. Reyes arrived in an unmarked car. She spoke briefly with a fire marshal, then came to me. Where is Ms. Lennox? I asked. She was released from interview at 11:32 under instruction to remain with a security escort. She is not here. Dr. Reyes turned sharply toward an officer. Radios crackled. Briar's assigned escort had been redirected by a false emergency call claiming a student was unconscious near the east gate. During the 3-minute gap, Briar disappeared. Celeste continued smiling. She knows where Briar went, I said. Dr. Reyes followed my gaze. Possibly.
No.
She knows.
How?
Because in my first life, after the first search, Briar hid in the old music practice building. Celeste found her there and convinced her to sign a statement blaming me. The practice building was scheduled for demolition and rarely checked after midnight. But that memory was not evidence. I chose a verifiable path. Briar played violin in first year. When she panics, she goes somewhere she can lock the door. The old music building still has manual practice room locks. Dr. Reyes relayed the location. Security found Briar at 1:41 in practice room 6. She was not alone. Dean Merritt was with her. He carried a wet canvas bag containing burned folder fragments, 2 phones, and the original financial file photograph of my mother's house. The fire had been a diversion. Celeste's smile vanished when officers placed the dean in a vehicle. She had expected him to retrieve or destroy something hidden outside the dorm while everyone evacuated. Instead, he was caught attempting to coordinate Briar's escape. The machine cracked open. In the morning, the first set of validated results was released. Mine was included. I opened the portal with my mother, Aunt, Noor, and Dr. Sato crowded behind me on video calls. Research methods. High distinction. Advanced biostatistics. High distinction. Ethics and governance. Distinction. Capstone thesis. High distinction. Overall cohort rank. Second.
Second.
In my first life, Celeste's leaked answers placed her first. I had spent years wondering whether I was ever truly good enough. Now the clean record answered. I was not first. I was real. Nor hugged me so hard my chair rolled backward. My mother laughed and cried at once. Aunt June demanded a screenshot before the corrupt internet changed its mind. Academic standing confirmed. No evidence of unauthorized access or assessment misconduct. The sentence was clinical. It felt like oxygen. At 10:30, the university publicly cleared me by name after I consented to identification. The statement confirmed that prohibited materials found in my former residence space had been placed there after my documented transfer. 2 weeks after the inspection, I attended a disciplinary hearing, not as the accused, but as a reporting witness. The hearing room was larger than interview room C. External panelists sat behind a curved table. Lawyers filled both sides. A camera recorded every word. Celeste entered wearing navy blue. She looked polished again. Hair smooth, posture straight, expression wounded but controlled. For 1 second, my body remembered obedience. Then she saw the necklace. Her gaze fixed on it. I sat beside Simone and opened my evidence binder. Celeste testified first. She admitted knowing Evan had access to administrative systems, but denied knowing the papers were stolen. She claimed Breyer stored the lockbox. She said my transfer shocked her because we had minor roommate tension, nothing more. She explained the code as an innocent borrowing and the forged receipt as an action by her father's media consultant. Then the panel played the cafe video. Breyer's voice rang through the room. You said Mara would panic. You said she would confess before they checked anything. Celeste's attorney argued emotional statements were unreliable. The panel played another recording, recovered from Breyer's phone. Celeste spoke clearly. Leave her necklace up. People believe sentimental objects more than checkout forms. The room became very still. Celeste looked at me. Not at her lawyer. At me. In the first life, that look would have begged, commanded, and threatened all at once. Now it found nowhere to land. My testimony lasted 53 minutes. I described facts in order. I did not call Celeste evil. I did not describe my dream. I did not tell the panel she killed a version of me. I explained the code, folders, portal attempt, transfer, necklace, lockbox message, inspection, forged receipt, and threat photograph. I admitted sending the Archive 7 message before opposing counsel raised it. Were you trying to entrap Mr. Pike? Celeste's attorney asked. I was trying to cause a reaction. So, you manipulated him? Yes. Simone glanced at me, but did not interrupt. The attorney stepped closer. You are comfortable manipulating people when it serves your purpose?
No.
But you did it. Yes. Then why should this panel trust your interpretation of Ms. Vale's actions? Do not trust my interpretation, I said. Trust the timestamps, access logs, recordings, photographs, and her own words. He paused. Pattern interruption. Defenders often prepared for denial. They were less prepared for ownership. The panel chair asked whether I believed Celeste understood the lockbox would implicate me. Yes. Basis. The message about my little black case before discovery, her instruction to leave my necklace, and Breyer's account of the plan. Celeste finally spoke out of turn. You left the necklace because you wanted this. Her lawyer touched her arm. She pulled away. You wanted them to search us, she said. You baited everything. I looked at her. I wanted a record of what you chose to do. You hated me before any of this.
No.
The answer surprised her. I continued. I loved you like a sister. That was why your choices worked the first time. Silence. Celeste's face strained. She understood the phrase. The first time. For an instant, I wondered whether some piece of her remembered too. A dream, a flash, a rain-soaked street. But then her expression hardened. You are insane. Perhaps, I said. The evidence is still real. The chair ordered both of us to stop addressing each other. The hearing continued. At 4:40, the panel found Celeste responsible for severe academic misconduct, identity misuse, retaliation, and interference with an investigation. Her enrollment was terminated, her completed assessments invalidated pending review, and the matter remained referred for criminal proceedings. She did not cry when the decision was read. She turned toward me while security prepared to escort her out. You think you won because you changed rooms? I stood. No, I said. I won because I stopped carrying what you hid under my bed. Her composure broke. Not dramatically.
No scream. No collapse.
Just one sharp breath, and the sudden realization that I was no longer available as storage for her guilt. Then she was gone. Outside, reporters waited behind barriers. Simone advised me to use the side exit. I looked at the crowd and chose the front. Cameras lifted. Questions flew. Did you suspect a conspiracy? Do you forgive your roommates? Should donor-controlled scholarships be abolished? Were exam results compromised for years? I stopped at the microphone stand. My hands shook, but I did not hide them. I will not discuss evidence still before the courts, I said. I will say this. Students should not need extraordinary luck, private resources, or perfect behavior to survive false allegations. Institutions must preserve records quickly, separate donor influence from discipline, and treat retaliation as a safety issue, not roommate drama. A reporter shouted, Do you forgive Celeste Vale? I thought of soup when I was sick. The folders. My mother's house. The sentence prepared before discovery. Forgiveness is not the same as access, I said. She no longer has access to my life. I walked away before they could ask more. The clip spread widely. People called the line powerful. They printed it over photographs and repeated it without context. For me, it was not a slogan. It was a lock. So here is the ending I choose. Not the courtroom. Not the headlines. Not Celeste's broken composure. A quiet apartment. A funded research project. My mother's house still standing. Nor complaining about architecture. Aunt June mailing cakes no one requested. A silver moon against my skin. And one locked box that no longer contains my future. The inspectors arrived at my roommate's door before sunrise. They woke to authority asking what they had hidden. I woke 2 floors above them. In a room with my name on the correct inventory, my key registered to the correct lock, and a witness sleeping across from me.
My phone rang.
I did not run downstairs. That was the moment I understood rebirth was not returning to the past. It was refusing to repeat it.